the screen capture. There we go. Alright, how does it sound now? I had two audios going, and I don't know why. The screen capture audio and my mic. So now I just left it to the mic. Let me know if it's good now, and I'll start. Alright, there's a lot of updates with the forum, and not a lot. It's just typical, but we're almost at 200,000 members, which is, I saw the other day, I was like 199.7 thousand members. Okay, yeah, thanks, Tammy. I apologize. It's difficult, these live things, unless you do it all the time. There's professional people that, they have people that keep an eye on them. I'm not. I'm here by myself. I'm gonna do the best I can. I did a live broadcast with my brother once, and he was on my phone, and it was like an echo chamber. It was like, "Hey Gary, hey Gary, Gary." It was like, oh jeez, how professional. I figured it out. I had to. That's why you see when these influencers, YouTube people, they wear headphones, so they can listen, for whatever's going on, and it doesn't come through their speakers and, reverb back into the microphone. And there is a way you can monitor and, do what have you, but it's kind of tricky. And the best way is just to isolate any sound that comes through to your microphone. And that's why I kind of got it set up that way. All right. Yeah, just saying, 199,000 members. We're right there, almost at 200. And what a group, huh? We've been, stained glass patterns have been around for, quite some time now. And just more and more, folks come and, join in. And, I made my post, we are live. I hope we're live. I guess we're live. I'm going to look at the timestamp. Perfect. There is only one. Congratulations. Yeah, you know what, Nancy? It's you guys. I mean, I'm just the stained glass guy that said, you know what? I do patterns. Let me make a Facebook group for stained glass patterns. It was that simple. And luckily, it wasn't taken yet. And I was an early Facebook person. So, I kind of locked in on the stained glass patterns, the name. And it's, I do contribute quite a bit. I know I do. And I do a lot of stained glass patterns. But honestly, it's the Facebook members that make this channel. I mean, there's so many people that are willing to help and, question the questions, and the people who respond, though everything may not be 100% accurate, and there's a lot of back and forth, and this and that, and people opine with their opinions, and we're all humans. We all make little mishaps and missteps, and that's just life, being human. And yeah. Oh, my next video. I'm thinking. I did the header for the. Oh, here we come. I got a cough coming up. Oh, I just turned my head. I was thinking about, when I did this layout for my YouTube header, I was like, I super resolution this. This is actually, I brought into my software where I made it like 10 times the clarity by increasing the pixels to get a really nice look and color depth with it. And these photos, like this lamp in the front, this is a photo from 1982, and it looks like it was taken yesterday. It was done in a professional environment. Believe it or not, Guy, my brother, he's actually a really good photographer. He took all the photos of the catalog photos of Somers stained glass back in the day. He had special lighting and ambient lighting and this kind of lighting. With backlit, not lit, and special cloth he'd hang up to minimize any kind of false lighting, and he did all that. And he had lights going on the lamps, and it's like a lot to it. Just taking photos of lamps. And this lamp was done professionally, with a standard, those old style, I guess he had what are they, Fujica or, Canon, I don't know. I know he had a good one. And, with the 400 speed film, and, you had to adjust the f-stops and the shutter speed and this and that, and there was a lot to it. And everything was done on a, making photo, what did I say? How do you make photos? Where you take the negatives and you make the photo. It was all done old school way, with all the processes. But nowadays, and I'm thinking, I was going through some of my photos that I took, and like this Macintosh Rose and the Peacock bath window and all these were done, and this actually, the violin was done earlier. I think it was a 110 camera. They were done with a digital camera, but it was only 6 megapixels. I mean, at the time, and I still have the camera, at the time, 6 megapixels was the bomb. You buy, I believe they had 12 megapixels available, but they were so expensive. But basically, using a 6 megapixel camera, the actual image, the photograph, at 6 megapixels, it's more than your eye can pick up. So just to put perspective on it, it will bring in more clarity on close-ups, and when you have your depth of field, basically you want to bring background into the foreground and all that stuff. The higher the megapixel was, the better that quality came through on a digital lens. But the thing is, the images were all digitized. It was all digital images. So that's a good thing and bad thing for, people ask about taking pictures of stained glass. And I'll do it now, because there's a lot to it, but it's really very simple, especially with today's cameras. I mean, I don't even know my iPhone. I think it's a 15 megapixel. I mean, it's just insane, the amount of quality that comes through. And if you have a phone, you just snap a shot and make a professional photograph. I mean, a lot of people you see in the group, you see, pictures of what they do and stuff. And people, one of the questions folks always ask is about lighting. Getting the proper lighting in the stained glass to make it most advantage, visually advantage to taking photos. And that's a really good question. And I always, when I took a picture of a stained glass window, years ago and today, I'm always focused, no pun intended, on what's happening with the image when I take it. And this is a really simple Macintosh Rose window, but the ambient lighting in the background from I think it was a sliding door, a room back, was perfect to get the highlights of the glass and show, depth in this design. And what I'm getting at is, you want to use lighting to your advantage to accentuate the photo you're doing. As well, this Compass Rose, the center jewel, is a little illuminated beyond the other glass, but not highly illuminated. You don't want a bright light. You don't want the sun behind here. And then, again, if you're using a textured glass, you don't want it too bright where, in this case, that Ripple clear, it's a Ripple Kokomo iridized that I use for the shell window here. You don't want that to overpower everything. So basically, you want a nice harmonic look of your stained glass when you take a picture. There's no need for strong sunlight. You're taking a picture at night, that makes no sense. But again, it's what you're using the light for in your photo. It's really important. And even in this lamp, you see the little diamonds. They're little illuminant. There's luminance going on. And in the curtain border area here, you see, the light and fractions in the ripple to show that ripple glass. And then there's ambient lighting on this lamp just to pick up the lead and the solder. So back then you had to work with all of these elements, and to capture that perfect picture, it took a lot. But again, today, point and shoot. And the bottom line is, and it depends on where you're going with this picture. You're going to just put it on your Facebook page, you're going to share it with others. The end destination of where you want this photo to be shown should be key in your decision on what you do with it. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of photo software out there that will crop your images and allow you to, size it to what you need. Like say for YouTube, I did the header image. I wanted to change it. I was getting bored with the old one. I wanted to make it prettier. And this will show up if you watch my channel on the TV screen. This will be the full TV screen view, which is nice. And I super resed it. I pulled it into my it's photo software, but it's more for doing digital artwork, Pixelmator. And there's a feature where it will super resolution any image, and it really does. And it takes images that may be a little bit grainy, and the software understands what needs to be highlighted, what needs to be corrected, sharpened, and they call it a super res filter. And that's also what you use to take, like say, a simple black and white image, a pattern, and export it in SVG format. It's very clean. It's a vector image. And the problem is with super res, it's a data hog. I mean, the images are like really large in size. And again, for a 51-inch TV, I needed this. For a header on a web page or what have you, it's going to be viewed on a phone. You don't need something that large. But nonetheless, if you super res an old image or a layout, a collage of images, you're going to get the most, the premium, colors and clarity of those images. So it's not a bad idea to super res all your images if it's going to be for display purposes. And and like I said, it boils down to the software. And most phones, all phones, they have your photo library. And I'm going to talk about Apple phones. You guys know me, I'm an Apple guy. I've been doing Macintosh since the mid-90s, and that's all I do. I don't like PC products because the colors are flat. They're not as strong as the true color technology that Apple uses, and that goes true, really true, with doing photos. The color, when I see this, they call it the true retina display. If you look at this with a phone, what you see is exactly what the image is. If you put that on a Samsung or a PC phone, you're not going to see that true retina. You think you are, but you're not. You hold the iPhone next to a Android, you can tell the difference. And for the same reason, you put an iMac or any Apple computer next to a PC, Dell or this and that. You'll say, wow, what's wrong with that Dell monitor? It's all grayed out and it has color. They're not true color. Well, the truth of the matter is, Apple, especially with computers and digitizing with their cards, the software and hardware in the computer, they use the true color technology. It's patented. So Microsoft and all the rest, Windows products, they can claim to have just as good, but they don't. And that's why I use a Mac. But again, the Macintosh, if you take photos, and I use, like I said, Pixelmator. You could use the Apple photo software they have. It's built in. It's it will do similar things, but it won't change that pixelation per, it's the DPI, they call it, dots per inch. It won't do that unless you resize it and resample the image, which a lot of times you'll lose that image quality. The sharpness and the banding of, what do I call that? The color, range of color. So, so taking pictures of stained glass, you want to be able to capture what your viewer is looking at. From a viewer perspective, I'm looking at these cute manatees. Actually, they're adorable. If you have one hanging up in a window, if you have some plants hanging up in the window, or in the background you have, the ocean, which would be nice. It's all about staging your stained glass. If you're doing it for that purpose, and that really comes into play when you're trying to get the maximum visual appeal of a picture. And there's software, on I'm going to say Apple again, but there's PC software you can manipulate photos or superimpose them, and crop the image, remove the background, and do a lot of tricks with it. But the bottom line is, you want to think about how you're going to have this image or this photo represented. Where is it going? What's the end game for your photo? So the old school days of thinking, with shutter speed, f-stops, and just the speed of the film, all those days are gone. It'll never come back unless you're an old photographer buff. You want to do things in black and white. I remember getting the super fast black and white film, the 135 film, and making these incredible black and white photos from from New York City, taking pictures of old buildings and what have you. And and it's basically a rule of thumb. You're taking pictures of your stained glass. What is your end game? Where do you want this photo to be admired from? Where do you want to present it? If it's just going to be for your use and showing off an album, or sharing with a client, whatever you're using your photo for. Always remember it's how you're going to present that, and bring it into photo software. Clean it up, compare it, and see how things move around and what have you. So it's really no trick. I mean, you got today's phones. I mean, I'm ready. I think I have a 16. I don't know. I'm ready for the 17 with the 3 cameras. I'm gonna see what that happens. How things go. All right. I just wanted to quickly do that. tutorial on taking pictures of stained glass, it's it's all on your phone. I mean, take a picture and bring it into photo software, and then do stuff with it. You could actually brighten it. You could actually change the hues, the monochrome. You could do a lot with any photo in the photo software. And they show you see the commercial. Someone photobombed the wedding picture, so they just swipe over and remove it. Adobe After Effects and all the Photoshop software. So there's so much you can do. So focus more on the software side of it. And again, your end game. Where do you want this photo to end up? How do you want to display it? All right, here we go. I'm going to go back to the forum. All right, help. Tracy needs help. I need to buy a sample box. I know what I'm buying. How can I afford it? Well, that's a big question, Nancy. Tracy, I'm sorry, I called you Nancy. I'm looking at the chat. Ideally you want glass samples of all the glass manufacturers you may come across and use for stained glass. I had the big sample. I had Kokomo, the full set, Wismac, Spectrum. I had some other oddball stuff, and basically that's it. The big three. Spectrum's no longer around, so maybe you may want to, get Oceana. Honestly, my glass samples were my glass racks. Main reason why, you start bringing samples out in front of a customer, and they start looking through it. They say, I want this purple. And you look and you go, oh, I don't know if I can get that. And they say, I want this green. I say, ooh, I don't know, that was out of stock last time I looked at. So what you want to do is only use your sample sets if you're going to explain a variation of a color you have, or one that you can use. And for example, if you got a clear seeded, it's 001 or 100 clear Spectrum or Kokomo clear seeded glass. You say, well, this also comes in a forest green seeded, or a mint green, or Dresden blue. And then you can pull up a sample and say, yeah, this is the Dresden blue, and you can get it, the whatever number blue. And in a lot of cases, you already have it in your rack. And if you don't, you always kind of suggest using something that's in your rack, because your racks are going to contain a lot of the glass that you already have used, and combinations of colors that you are, very comfortable with, and know how they look when you put them together. And so if you deal with clients, say, hey, man, I recommend this, and you recommend it not because you're trying to get rid of it, but because it's something you're familiar with. So glass samples, I'm not being weird about it. I'm just saying, yeah, use your glass racks. And my glass racks were never smaller than 60 feet long. I had from one end of my studio, 1200. That was the last glass rack I had. It was like 8 times 10, or 8 times 8. I think I had 8 sections. It's 64 feet of glass racks. It was a lot of glass, and it went from, I always had my glass rack set up perfectly with the colors, going from clears, whites, ambers, greens, blues, reds, orange, purples, and just going right down the rack, so everybody would see those colors. So you want a green, it's all in the middle. Usually the greens and the blues would take up a third of the rack because those are very common colors. And if you're working on, say, a seascape window, you say, yeah, I could put this kind of blue in with the water, and then you could pull out from the rack little samples you had, or full sheets, and show, yeah, this could be water. So yeah, samples, they're okay if you want to reference something, that you don't have, or if it's available immediately to you. And if you do have a stained glass studio, you know what I'm talking about. Your glass racks, yeah, you're working sample set, honestly. And as far as recommending companies, Kokomo, all you need is Kokomo. You know, Kokomo, if they're producing glass, and they have stepped it up since they've been sued by the government, you know, and shut down for smelter, not, you know, their oven issues, and you know, but they're back. And you know, you got Yokogani also. Oh, I'm gonna leave them out. I didn't mean to, but Yokogani as well. They have a tremendous assortment of glass. Actually, gets a little too heavy with the color blends, so maybe you want to just stick with, you know, just having the Yokogani sample set, and you know, cherry picking colors if you're going to use for, say, a fancy area of the window, flowers, you know, what have you, where you want to bring in something really dramatic. The Yokogani's good for that. You know, I would definitely stock some of their more common color blends. But you know, if you want a real reliable sample set, Kokomo. Kokomo has everything from seeded, textured, rippled, this color, that color, you know, light LL glass, you know, the granite glass, they've got it all. And then Wismac. And Wismac, I don't want to put Wismac down, but they are not Kokomo. And Kokomo is your true, you know, color on glass people. I mean, they have it down, and they proved themselves for over 100 years. There's no, I mean, really, Kokomo's the glass company, the stained glass. I mean, some people will disagree, but no, there's a reason why Tiffany bought Kokomo glass and used Kokomo glass. And Wismac, they're more versatile in the I'm going to say the average glass blend variety. You know, if you need an orange, a green, or this and that, they were not as you know, let's say the word is not fluid, but Kokomo just, I'm sorry, Wismac, the Kokomo just blows you out of the water. I had to say it. But Wismac, you will get the English muffles, say. You know, English muffles are really nice textured glass. Wismac has their own granite style, where it's more of a higher relief worm type. It looks like, you know, worm race, I call it. And you know, Wismac has other textures, and you know, the clears, and you know, the cathedrals they make are just fine, and they actually cut easier. If you're a hobbyist, you know, or let's say a proficient hobbyist running a studio, or you know, selling glass and all that, you probably lean harder to Wismac because it is easy to cut. You know, it's easy to work with. And where Kokomo tends to have a lot of irregularities, you know, divots in the glass, it makes it difficult. But if you're proficient at cutting glass, you know, where you use the draw technique as I explained, the divots, the bumps, the seeds, and all that other stuff is no problem. I mean, it shouldn't be a problem. Even if you push cut, you know, lean toward Kokomo. You're gonna find Kokomo 2-3 color blends, way superior to any other company. I mean, and that includes Yokogani and Bullseye with the models. Yes, some of it for accent glass, and I'm not putting model glass down. I'm not putting Yokogani down, but the model glass and the purple green with rose in it, some of the color blends that Yokogani comes up with, and Uroboros, and all the older glass, Oceanas, and I mean I remember the merry-go-round is another glass, heavy model glass, and Bullseye. They do have their place, but not as versatile as Kokomo. I mean, I'll keep saying that. Especially with the just the colors of nature. Kokomo rocks it. I'm going on my sample list with a pencil cutter. Oh, I got to look at my clock and look. Said Nancy, Kokomo glass sample runs $140. Oh, yoy. I remember when they were like $60 to $80. You know what? And I had to do a hard sell on my shop back in '09. I sold everything, and then I had to. I gave away Kokomo. I gave away Spectrum. I gave away all my glass samples. And I'm not getting back. I'm not getting burnt again, because back in '09 the economy went south. It hurt a lot of people, and I was so discouraged by it. It's like almost somebody just the economy was so bad, and instead of packing everything, I said, look, there was no, I mean, there was internet, but it was more like bring a truck, bring a truck. I had to liquidate $50,000 worth of glass. It was not easy. You used to buy Kokomo pony packs. I'd say, give me three, give me four. 18 by 18s and the Spectrum, the 100-pack Spectrum rack packs, whatever. And Wismac even had their own packs. And I used to leave them. People used to buy them, by the square foot. And I'm like, take the whole box. What do I got? It comes with 80. I think there's about 40 left, maybe 50. I don't know. Make me an offer. $60. Sure. I was dumping this stuff because I had to leave. I had to close my shop, and I saved my paints, my brushes, some of my older tools and some supplies. But I literally was so discouraged with how the economy was, and that was '09, and it came back. It did it again, and not too long ago. Pre-COVID too. It's just too the stained glass business is too up and down. And I was in a new environment. My brothers in New York were doing fine. They had their big wholesale accounts and this and that. I say this and that a lot. But me, I'm in the South. I was at the mercy of the economy down here. And I was doing church work, but you need more than just church windows. I mean, you really do. They keep the lights on, but you need the retail. You need the people coming in. It's basically, I mean, I tried 6 months. Not one customer knocking on my door, and I had to say, all right, that's it. I got to pull. And and the thing about stained glass, you could always restart it, which I did. I came back later. Actually, went right back to the old shop. I went to the one next door. It used to have the glass doctor in it, and actually at the time, during that time, I became a glass doctor. I was doing commercial glazing. At the time of my life. All right, back to samples. Just buy a couple of Kokomo pony packs. I mean, I would do that. I would buy a pony pack. I would buy a Wismac pack and get some Oceana samples or Wismac, Kokomo. I mean, invest in them, but again, don't rely on your samples for showing clients. I mean, it may bite you. Anyway. Anything in stained glass, wonderful service. Yeah, I heard anything they do really well with helping people out. That's been mentioned before. I'm gonna go back to the farm. I spend too much time. If I yammer too much, just get in the chat and say, Gary, stop yammering. I'll stop, I promise. Daniel Squire, join you because there isn't any group for my type of stained glass from Glass Mosaics. Sure, you can post here. Dennis. My eyes are going bad. Yeah, it's very colorful. I guess that's glass on glass. Glass on glass. Yeah. I've seen that before. It's art glass. We don't say, it's gotta have solder. If somebody says, that's not real stained glass, don't pay attention. And mosaics usually, it's got a medium. Instead of using lead and solder, it's got epoxy, or it's got cement. That's mosaics. Or actually, tile grout works really well. But, yeah, welcome. I saw this one, Pierre stained glass. Comment. Oh, someone commented. This looks really cool. I mean, just the three-dimensional look of this one, and the tiny ornaments. I would actually put that in my, and I would look at it. I would like, wow, that's really nice to look at, just because of all the 3D, blendings of this Christmas tree. Really well done. And that's what I was talking about photos earlier. This image. Let's see if I can squeeze it in. The image or this photo is done such a way you got the plants in the background. You got interesting things over here. Something green, something photobomb. Maybe is that a cat door? But yeah, it's the lighting. You got the reflective lighting on it. It's darker here, and maybe it could have been done a little bit more presentable, but it looks good. And it was probably done with a camera phone. Not a camera phone. I mean, a phone camera. I know the cough medicine I take is not wonky stuff, but I feel wonky. All right. Oh yeah, the 7:30 seconds foil conversation. I don't know, guys. I just try to stay away. If you can't foil with 7:30 seconds on the first pass, go around it again. I mean, I would have said that. I mean, there were times, especially with thicker rippled glass. Foil it normally, get the front looking really good, and if you got glass edges on the back, go around again. Just go around again. You don't need to use 1/4 inch foil. Just wrap it twice. Wrap it twice. That's what I would do. I would didn't worry about it. When you got foil, if it doesn't go around the edge of the glass, well, by the time you solder it, that solder is going to bubble up past the edge of the glass. In most cases, and never be an issue. So, what are we looking at? Dennis. Okay, Dennis Squire. And DNA and glass on glass. Another glass on glass. Okay. I'm squinting. I'm trying to read my last piece. What I can do is jump onto the forum, actual browser, and see it better. I could see. I'm not going to complain. My last piece, I use an old window and put stained glass behind me. Can write notes and lists on it. Stained glass with I'm confused. Well, that's pretty actually. It's that's like actually modern deco. They call it boho, bohemian style. It's because you got the large focals of squares with repetitive rounds, the abstract background. And I would classify this as a modern deco, boho style. Very nice. I mean, you don't have to go crazy with color. Use very subtle colors. Actually, very nice. And again, I'm going to talk about that, taking photos of stained glass. Here you go. You got a nice dark wall, a light frame, and plants in front. Oh, honey, move the plants. I want a picture of the stain. No. The plants are fine. I could see that conversation. But yeah, that's what you want. How do you want to present your image, your photo? And look, you have refractive light here. That's neat. And I don't know if there's light behind it, but that's all fine. That's all fine. Did a good job. Well, enough with the photography part. So, yeah, it's a good idea. Nice work. All right. Oh, you're still here. Kokomo is 8:30. What? I'm reading Nancy's post. Kokomo is at 140. Kokomo pony packs 8:39. Jeez. I don't know. I remember when I'm making up numbers now, but I know it was the pony pack wasn't 80. Spectrum had 80. The pony pack were 18 by 18 sheets, and I think there were 80 sheets. I'm gonna check again. 50. Oh no, 8. The Spectrum was 80. So 50 pieces. It could have been 50. 839. I know it wasn't that much. I think it was around $200 to $300 for the pony packs. And I buy them right from Ed Hoy in Chicago. And I'd say, give me, they would have the pony packs, and if they had a lot laying around, so give me one from a recent shipment, and give me one from the 3 shipments ago. So this way you get a nice variety. And you can never go wrong with a pony pack from Kokomo. Every piece of glass in that pony pack is worthy. And if it doesn't appeal to you right out of the gate, you can make it work. They have this funky textured glass. It's like circles in it. It's like, I don't know. It's very odd, and it's like I don't even know what they call it. But if you use it in the right places, you could use it. And even the lousiest colors from Kokomo, the most dingiest pale colors that Kokomo makes, is perfect accent glass for other glass. Perfect, for thin borders and little chips. So get a $839. Nancy, where'd you find that? That is extreme. That's like almost $1,000 for a pony pack. I'm not reading the chat no more. You scare me. 16 by 18. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you're probably right. I know it was 18 something. Yeah, it would be 32. Let me see. The sheets were 38 by 42, I believe, or 32 by 42 for the Kokomo sheets. 42. Which half of 84? Yeah, 42. Yeah, because actually a Kokomo sheet of glass is 7 feet tall. It's 84 inches, and that's after they cut off the end cuts. So the cases we used to get were, they were 8 feet. They were big sheets of glass. I know there was 84 inches, so it was 42 was actually a half sheet, and they were sold as full sheets, 42, and it was 34 by 42. I think that 34. I'm thinking more 34 by 42. I forget, but yeah, that's the standard online. We're what distributor? I think you could probably do better than that. I mean, Kokomo may be able to give you a better deal. That seems like full retail. I mean, I could be wrong. I haven't really bought glass. Let me see. The last time I bought glass was probably 09, 2010, probably 20. Yeah, 2010. And I had to go back to New York for a couple of years, and I had to sell it all again. Yeah, I sold all that again. But yeah, I did a couple of jobs here at my home, my workshop. And I all the years blend together right now. But I know it was 2010ish. When I had to leave North Carolina, go back to, I rented my place and had to go back to New York. I think that was the second economy dip. It was 2009 and 2010. Yeah, it was still horrible. There's still residual downside. Then I became a Pella window technician. I said, that's it. I'm not doing stained glass anymore. I'm a Pella technician. So, yeah, I mean, my family always did. I still did stained glass. I just, running a shop. You got, and you know what it is about stained glass. You can't have an 800 square foot shop. I mean, you could, but technically, I mean, in my 2,000 square foot shop, I had two 16-foot benches by 4 foot wide. I had 1, 2, 3, 4 by 8 foot benches. 60 feet of glass racks on one wall, and I had a bench dedicated just for cementing. And then you need a spot for the kiln, and then some supplies. So yeah, you need, I would say, the minimum square footage for an efficient stained glass studio is 2,000 square feet. And rent on a building, unless you own the building, can be very costly. And on top of your materials and your overhead, your electric and all that stuff. So yeah, let me go back. I actually, I made good money. I did a lot of church windows. I did high-end commissions. Oh, Don's back. Hey Don, where you been? Looking at that. I don't know if I'm scrolling. Sometimes I start yammering on and I just free scroll. All right, does anyone recognize what organization that this lapel pin signifies? Based on the engraved date, college fraternities. Masonic. Yeah, looks like one of those beta things. I have no clue, Don. I'm sure if you Google image it, you'll get something. Yeah. But interesting. I'm sure it has something. That's a, I'm going to pronounce that wrong. I'm not going to even bother. Pythias? Yeah, I think it's Pythias. Top is Sigma. Family crest. Interesting. I hope you find your answer, Don. And welcome back. I haven't seen you in a while. Nice to see you in the group. And good luck with that. All right, Sam. He's got something interesting. He needs some help. Just moved into my own place. Post-divorce. Oh yeah, I saw this the other day about the grinder noise. I don't know. You know what? How about this? Don't grind. Just kidding. Yeah, you know what? Maybe you shouldn't be grinding with the grinder against the wall. You have a back porch, do it out there. I don't know. Yeah. Well, good luck with it. Sorry to hear about your divorce. It's not funny. It's not good. Yeah, soundproof the I like that. Yeah, just put a 6-inch insulation in the closet and go in there. That's funny. Yeah, yeah. Look at Beverly's cat, right? I mean, come on. All right, cat. Cat likes to pull out the pins. Oh boy. I don't know. Maybe you should look at the metal push pins instead of those plastic ones. Those, what are those, hat pins or whatever they are. I saw that. I was like, I don't know if that cat's eating the pins. Yeah, try those. You know what I'm talking about? Is instead of using a long pin with the plastic top, try the metal push pins. They have longer pin ends on them. Instead of using the short ones, get the ones that are longer, and they work really good. I use them to push into masonite bench. The brown board. A little tap of the glazing knife goes right in, and it doesn't mess up the board. But that's why I don't like using nails. I use pins. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe, someone mentioned that cat likes the plastic. But geez, I'll tell you, that's odd behavior. And definitely would look at trying to get something, because you love your animals and you want them around. You can't have meat and pins. That's odd. Uh, let's see, how long have I been live for? 40 minutes, 49 minutes. All right, I'm gonna speed up. No. Oh yeah, Tristan with her SATA problem. I saw that. I even commented on it. You place your soldering on it. You know what? I looked at this and I looked carefully. I said, you know what? What's going on here? I'll blow it up. I don't know if you guys can see that. Let me go back. I went into the forum. Yeah, I looked at this tip. You see this curving going on here? This tip is very worn out. It's like extremely worn out. And at first look, I thought it was one of those cheap Chinese irons. I mean, it's not super expensive. I mean, I look online. It's I think $118 for this setup from Weller. But this is a standard Weller tip. If you look carefully, you can see there's like bowing going on here. It's bowing outward. This tip is shot. And you can see it here. There's like a little bowing. It looks to me like it was left on or always used at a high temperature, on the rheostat. And it was just burnt out. And instead of spending all kinds of money or throwing the iron out, it's a Weller iron. It should be fine. It's a tip. You need a new tip. And I did suggest it in the forum. I don't know. I mean, honestly, you guys probably see my video. I'm going to go back to here. See my video where I do field tests of products, and I did. I field tested a Weller 60 watt iron. And very low voltage, wattage, and small tip, smaller than, kind of an average to small tip, probably the same size as this one here. And I saw it on Amazon, $23. I just saw it again for like $19. It's like so cheap. You get the iron, and it's got a headlight. You just need a rheostat. And just like any iron other than the Hakko that has the dial control on it, you need a rheostat. And the importance of a rheostat, I can't express enough the importance of making sure you just don't leave it on full tilt or high rating. The average running temp, dial should be around 7 or 8 out of 10. Whether it's 70, 80, I go 75 out of 100. So it's like 3/4 throttle. And if it's too cold, if your iron's chilling off too quick, goose it up a little. Go to 80, 85. If you start burning lead and the tip of the iron turns black, turn it down. You'll get into a comfortable zone based on the speed of your soldering. Because technically you can plug an iron in directly to the wall, and as long as you keep feeding solder to it, that iron's going to cool down because you're feeding cold solder to a tip of the iron. Once you stop, there's no longer that feeding going on, and the iron will start heating up and heating up and heating up and getting to a point where you're either going to destroy your tip with that black corrosion, or actually, I've seen this tip is warping. It's bulging, and you can see the tip is actually worn to a curve on the tip. This tip is shot. So whoever you bought that iron from, they sold you iron with a tip that was shot. I know she mentioned she picked it up on Marketplace or something. But unfortunately, the Weller tips, you can get 3 tips for a 20 and change, $25, which is not a bad idea if you're going to keep this iron. And honestly, it's a Weller with a built-in rheostat. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this iron. And in my opinion, just get the 3 tips, put it in, keep an eye, make sure you don't overheat your tip. And a lot of people, they have this, they go back and forth about these sponges and, with the water. You use distilled water. I don't, honestly, I don't even use, I tried using a sponge and I put a little flux on it. I said, flux is the best thing. Because I dip my iron into the flux, which they say don't do, it's going to kill your iron tip, which the tips that I used, and did that dipping will last 20 years. Or if I'm using it all the time, I'm going to be changing the tip in a year or two anyway. So it's not like, it's not killing the tip. It's keeping it clean. You dip it into a good flux, wipe it off, hit it with a brass scrubby or, brass scrub, little brass brush, shoot it onto the floor. Your workshop, the floor should always be, you're not going to shoot it into a garbage can. You're going to get, solder splatter on the floor and this and that, glass shards. Just shoot it on the floor, and, or on your bench top away from you. So, but basically, you're taking all that burnt debris that ends up on the tip of the iron and getting it off. That's it. And, backing it up with sal ammoniac every now and then. If it gets to a point where it's real crusty and dirty like that, you can bring it back with sal ammoniac. There's a lot of folks that say, "Oh, don't use sal ammoniac." Hakko says don't. The Hakko 456 iron, which I still have, I have to dig it out. I use sal ammoniac on it. I didn't say all the time, but enough. A good dozen times. And Hakko says, "Don't use sal ammoniac. Don't use sal ammoniac." I was like, when I saw that, I was like, "Oh, what's it gonna do?" And scratching my head, I was like, "All right." I use it anyway because my tip's all corroded. It's crusty. I got to get that crust off. So I used my sal ammoniac, cleaned it up, and then I'm expecting things to happen. Like, my iron's going to blow up or something. Or, it's just going to start falling apart. Well, never happened. And, got crusty again. Used sal ammoniac again. Brought it right back. Beautiful. So I don't know why Hakko even says, don't use it. I'm guessing, because if you're saving your tip from demise, getting ruined by overheating, what have you, or crusting up, you're going to buy a new tip or a new iron. So it's bad for them to say don't, if you use sal ammoniac, you're going to extend the life of your tip beyond normal use. And talking about the water, I don't know. I'll tell you something. That whole water thing, with wiping your iron on it, whether it's distilled water or regular water, that sponge is dirty. Anything that's on that sponge or gets wet is going to vaporize on your tip. Just dip it in the flux, which will clean your tip. So the chlorides and the other acids in the flux will remove that debris, that dirt and debris. And then you brush it off with a brass brush and be done with it. And then start soldering. Solder alone has impurities in it that when it gets on your tip, leaves little crust lines and this and that, and it gets heated up and forms a ridging or ugliness. The only thing that's going to get that off is good flux. And you'll notice when you are soldering a window that's fluxed, the actual iron itself touching the window where it is fluxed will remain fairly clean. And when you spin your iron, change the tip, from the bottom where you were soldering to flip that to the top, you'll notice it is a lot cleaner than how the top was before you flipped it. And that's because you're running your tip across flux. Don't anyone tell you otherwise. That's what's going on. It's not even it's like an obvious thing. So, it's obvious. So, and you can dip. Do the dip. Dip it. You dip your solder in the flux. I've even taken a flux brush and swiped the iron tip quick. I know it's hot. Just swipe it. It gets that dirt off. I got a fly land on there. Now it's vaporized. Let me get it off. So yeah, don't be afraid of getting flux on a tip. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I would never take an iron and dip it 3 inches into a bucket of flux. That's different. I'm talking about the tip. So let me see. I was reading. Yeah, I was yammering again. Nancy didn't stop me. Oh, Delphi. Yeah, Delphi's good. They have one in Lansing. I think there's a Delphi in Florida too. I think you probably get a better deal at Ed Hoy. If you don't have a what you call a wholesale account, all you need is a tax ID number. Get one. And the shipping. I actually sent my shipper to Kokomo, to Ed Hoy, and because they're shipping, they crate it and they send it by truck, and I was like, wow, that's a little pricey. So I sent my shipper, and it brought it way down. But the pony packs, unless you could drive there and pick them up, Kokomo sells direct now too. So you might even be able to get a better deal with them. But Ed Hoy or other large, Delphi's pretty big, but they're more of the. I'm not putting Delphi down, but they're more in the glamour singlet thing. They look at these gadgets and this and that. They're more. I don't know. I can't see Delphi giving really good breaks on prices. That's all I'm saying. Where Ed Hoy would, or other companies. If you're in the Southwest, there's other companies. Also, companies like Sunshine up in Buffalo, New York, they actually have quite a bit of glass, and Rainbow in New Jersey, just to name a few. Houston Stained Glass back in the day was a pretty big outlet. But I would say any place that's closest to Indiana, Kokomo would have the best prices on crated pony packs. $8.39. I keep looking at that. Actually, I'll tell you, for 50 sheets of glass, whatever it is, what is that, 50? I don't know. Yeah, 50 sheets, 16 by 18. It's over 2 square feet. Yeah, it's $400. I don't know. $8 a square foot. Yeah, I'm doing a quick math. All right, back to the forum. I'm just shaking my head. 8:39. All right, let's see. Oh, I'm passing up this beautiful rose here, but Stephen Mosser. All the positives I got since I started posting some of my pieces. Haven't done any glass for some time with the moves we have made. I feel your pain. Just never unpacked my equipment. I was actually ashamed because of granddaughter. I couldn't understand why each of her brothers and sisters had one and cheated. Aw. Oh, well, Grandpa, that'll do it. Pulling on Grandpa's strings. He made that for her. It's beautiful. It was well waiting for, young lady. Oh, look at that. You even engraved it. Really nice. That's very sweet. I bet her favorite color is pink. With the purple. A little cutie. Good job. Yeah, he looks very happy. Glad she shaved you. Alright, let's see. What do we got? Duncan Green and Art Glass. I'm ordering Nathan Trotter. What is the best flux type and brand, please? Hey, it's $1 million question. Alright, everything is trying successful. Well, I'm going to jump in on this one because stained glass flux is not the same. It really is not. Excuse me. depending on what you're doing, I'm going to jump in. 13 comments. Tiger's Eye. All right. Tiger's Eye Gel Flux. I have it, tried it. I like it, but I don't like it. Use Canfield solder. Canfield solder. 50-50. Well, okay. Canfield's good solder. They're talking about flux, right? Old recipe. Muriatic acid. Add zinc to the acid so it doesn't dissolve anymore. Okay. Buddy, I like your thinking. Muriatic acid is a little aggressive. Maybe want to tone it down a bit. We used oleic acid, which worked really well. And it held up. It just smoked a lot. And zinc chloride is actually the element or the chemical in a lot of fluxes that does the cleaning, keeps things in check. You know, like the Canfield has a lower value of zinc chloride, but it is in there nonetheless. Oh, all right, John. You're barking up that wrong tree, John. It is, well, if you use it, I guess, to be fair, I've never used a ruby gel flux. He says it's not like a liquid flux that pop and burn your hands. Yeah, because that ruby liquid flux that I think you're referring to, right here, spits like a banshee. I mean, it's like, you can use it sparingly, but it's gonna pull up somewhere, and you hit it with a hot iron, that thing pops 3 feet in the air. You better be wearing your goggles. Yeah, Benny, here you go, ruby paste. All right. I have never used ruby paste. I looked at it. It's probably good, but that liquid flux, the ruby liquid, it'll scare you. And I think I'm not gonna badmouth any companies, but I think the Novocaine Old Masters was a spitter too. That green flux. I just found that really liquidy stuff. But I just did a product review of that. What is that? Win USA flux. It's a liquid zinc chloride flux. It doesn't spit. Don't ask me how or why. It doesn't spit. And Mike uses simple green and dawn. Alright. If you guys haven't tried it, it's a Win USA, WIN USD flux. They sell it on Amazon. I had the link for it. I did a video on it. Actually, I tried it. I tried to make it spit. It didn't spit. No balls flying all over. And they claim to have some kind of new ingredient. And I said, that's what sparked my interest. No corrode. Yeah, no corrode. That's actually a really good flux. The paste flux, and Michelle shows it here down below. It does work really well. Oh, it's a cluster what? Trying to get that stuff off. Yeah, that's probably the downside. Putty glaze and like the water-based. Yeah, that's I heard about the paste fluxes. They're a little tough to get off. But if you're using it for leaded windows, stained glass, like instead of a tallow candle, which is basically oleic acid, which doesn't come off easy either, and it's very it's greasy. It's beef fat. But for leaded stained glass windows, it's not an issue, because when you cement the window, the cementing process actually removes that, or actually moves it around enough to where it at times becomes an advantage, because it will actually tone down the leads and the solder, the 50-50 solder. No one talks about that. I will. Use oleic acid. Your window's all coated in it, and Once you cement it, that oleic acid will actually tone down your lead. So it'll patina your stained glass window. Right? Enough. Especially when you start buffing. You'll get lots of paint. I prefer no core. Whatever you use sparingly. If it spits and bubbles, use too much. Yeah, Bob, you're right. You don't want to pull it up. But I found, and I'm going to say it, my favorite flux in the world, and my mother actually showed me, is Ed Hoy's, made by Creative Craftsman. They're Glass Flux. It's called Glass Flux. It's an oily. It's oily more so than a water-based flux, and it smokes a little bit, but it also does not contain the zinc chloride. And though it does smoke a little, you got to be careful. You got to make sure you have ventilation. That flux, by far, hands down, 10 to 1, 20 to 1, 100 to 1, is the best flux on the market. And it's made by Ed Hoy and their division of Creative Craftsmen. If you've never tried it, do yourself a favor, try it. It not only cleans the solder, the stained glass, copper, and lead, but when you solder with it, it is perfect, no spitting, no bubbles, but the downside, it does smoke a little bit. And it is actually classified as a natural flux. I don't know what it is, what it's made of, but it's, I'll say it again. The best flux on the market is Glass Pro. And this new Win USD flux is actually pretty good. It doesn't smoke a very tiny bit, and it works like the Glass Pro. I was very shocked when I used it. Now, I don't own stock in Win USD, but I have a bottle of it. I love it. I mean, I'm trying to make this stuff work in a negative way. I couldn't do it. And it's cheap. It's $8 a bottle. All right. I'm going to go back to my software, see if I could see this. There we go. Andrea, 40 angel ornaments. Look at you go. Wowza, wowza. Talk about elves are hard at work. I'm sure you're not alone, but 40 of them. Good job. Good for you. Good for you. Look at that green angel, green with red wings. You know what? Sometimes you think outside the box a little bit, and this is perfect. Angels don't have to have white wings all the time. They can have red wings. Very nice. Angela, very nice. I like it. And your decorative soldering. Very well, very nice. Well done. And Merry Christmas. Let's see what we got. Leah just finished polishing this girl up. And I just need patina. Oh, they're kind of haunting. It looks like my daughter's cat. She's got. I'm being mean now. The poor cat. She's got glaucoma, and she's blind, but she's the most adorable cat. Elizabeth. Lily. I'm sorry, Elizabeth. Lily. I had a cat named Elizabeth. My daughter loves the cat, and you look like Lily. Very nice. I like your ease of placement in the design, and your choice of colors. Very well done. Very, very nice. And this one, I saw this, Rachel, earlier. I was like, man, you better wipe your feet off. You stepped in something. Went to an estate sale, right? And 3 crates of glass for $40. And you know what? Look at some of that glass. I mean, my eye spies some pretty good stuff right here. 3 crates of it. Okay, wipe your feet off. Yeah, I mean, that looks like my shop. You sure you didn't get it from me? 3 crates for $40. Yeah, fill your pickup truck. I want to see the tires bulge. And there's me, my next video. I think I already did it. I mean, you know what? It's not a trick. Really, it isn't. Your phones today does it all. It's again your end result. Where do you want this photo to be displayed? Use software, and today's they have the photo blast. You could take 100 pictures of the same, and you could pick the one you like. Oh, there's another cough. I got it out. It's fine. All right. What do we have? Okay, I'll look at my timer. All right, we're coming up on an hour and a half. That's my maximum time I like to spend on these. My K glass. Okay. I always get K glass confused with somebody else, but very nice. I like the iridized. It looks like that Spectrum texture from back in the day. Very pretty. With the silver solder, no patina. Very well done. Very simple cuts. You could do this on. What is that? It looks like a spinner almost the way it's laying out. Make it a spinner. Very nice. Actually, is that a spinner? It could be a spinner. I don't know. I'm confused. So I'm thinking, oh, this one, yeah, worth the 140. These older windows, and those that's got the old wood trim and putty, if it's putty, you get these things cleaned up. Make sure they're supported. I see a little bowing going on here. They're really, you can't really put a price on them. And being that they're old like that, unfortunately they don't market well because there's a ton of them out there. But to replicate this, and it's not a terribly difficult design. I would say pricing it would be in at minimum 150 a square foot, probably close to the 250 a square foot on an average level. And I did the quick math earlier, and I think I came up like $1,700. Yeah, that's what it's worth. And you got price them or value them to what it would cost you to replace it, and not looking at what glass this is. This looks like old Wismac hammered. It could be that. It could be Kokomo. I don't know, but definitely worth more than $140. Good job. Yeah. I love when people show off their finds. Like, look what I got for $10. Heather wants to know what kind of glass cutters do you recommend to get. There's nice clean edges. I see in your demonstrations. I don't know, is she talking about me? Trimming through the grinding, thanks. The technique, not the tool. Yeah, and Debbie's right. You should use oil. Folks say they don't use oil. Well, you know what? I'm not saying you have to use oil. You can cut glass with spit. You could spit on the cutter. You could leave it dry. Bottom line is the oil will give you a better score, which results in a better cut, a better edge of your glass. So oil, it's not a matter of preference. This goes back a long ways. Even with the diamond cutters, they didn't use wheels. They used diamonds. You want a little oil on it. It helps with the scoring and retaining the integrity of the score. So, which helps with a better break. Yeah, so Debbie's right. Be like Debbie. Debbie says using oil. Yeah, it does make a big difference. Debbie, you are correct. I can, that's me. I'm showing a little photo editing. Show some Christmas trees I've been making. Devon, is that Devon? I'm sorry, Devon. Um, Very cute. I love the wire. Whenever anyone gets creative with wiring, this wire, it does so much for a piece. I mean, the embellishments, just the tiny little ornaments, very, very nice. And I also like the way you went outside the box and you did a red and white tree, green and white. The trees don't have to be all green. Very pretty. Gary's thumb just went up. Very nice. I honestly, I would hang that on my tree. I like that much. Very nice. Well done. Sue Waggers. Waggers. Is it possible to cut a star shape? Yeah. I did a video about that. Look at my YouTube channel and, cut a star. It's not easy. Trust me. I actually had a little struggle with it, but it's not impossible. I'm going to jump in and look at the comments. This is a TikTok challenge. Cut stars in glass. No one invited me. Matt, where's my invitation? Small radius in the interior corners. Yeah, you don't want to make a sharp point in the inside corner. The trick is when you're cutting the star corner, when you're cutting out the inside corner, you want to do your score and then don't stop and just follow in. And it's going to be a slight rounded, not a perfect point. That would cause a weak spot. You want to do continuous cut with a slight rounding. That's the trick. Well, you can cut a star like that, not so deep. Kathy did it. She got it. Yeah, it's about relief cuts. There's no trick. It's just relief cuts that get you in deeper into the inside cut area. As long as your relief cut doesn't touch the score of the star, you'll be okay. Once your relief cut interacts with the initial score of the star, that's when you're going to have problems. You want to eliminate any of that touching and take off little chips and chunks as you go, and clean it up with a carborundum, which has got a flat edge to it. All right. Let's see, Hannah, and then Hannah. Let me go back to my software. I have to keep an eye on the chat. There it is. Yeah, if you haven't said hello, say hello. Or if you're still here, thank you for being here. I try not to go long with these, but there's so much to talk about. And the thing about answering in the comments, with text, that just goes so far. You write a novel. Let me use AI. All right, Hannah, I think this is going to be my last one. I'm hoping someone can help with my vision here. I haven't checked this 442 heavy. Oh, Oldsmobile. Sorts of my dad, because where can we find a lamp hardware kit with a sign? I think about leaving a hole in the side of the house. Put the light sockets and build too. Making a lamp. Interesting. Oh, I see. You're trying to do like a surround. Interesting. Well, I would say get the front made, the 442, make it, and build like a box with standing edges, and go from there. You could use, instead of using incandescent lighting, which gets warm, and may blow out, you can stick with the LED lighting, which should last a lot longer, if not indefinitely. So, and you don't have issues with heating and hot spots and all that. But yeah, interesting. I like to see what you come up with. It's yeah. Anyone grew up back in the day, you had those big boats, the Oldsmobile 442s. They were big cars and big engines, but I think they were too heavy to be any real competition. They had the Hearst 442 cars back then. They were very respectable. You know, had to respect them. But still, they were big old boats. You know, that's coming from somebody who had Mopar. I'll do one more. Jeffrey Sullivan, and then this is the last one. I am new to the group, recently joined because I need to learn. Are there any classes around Rochester? I guess that's Minnesota. Yeah. And so, yeah. You know what? The one thing, and I'll tell you, classes are great. You know, because you're in an environment with like-minded people, people with varying amounts of skills, and you know, you learn by watching and doing, and I really do like classes. Oh, Nancy. Oh, thanks, Nancy. I enjoyed your company. Sorry, I'm a little congested, but I'll try. I mean, I do like, well, you know, you got questions. I mean, I could do a question and answer thing, but I also like to go through the forum because that's where a lot of questions are asked, and answer them inadvertently. You know, just get on the question and, you know, give my best replies in the open forum. You know, not open forum, on a live chat. Shop by St. Mary's. Oh. Yeah, talking about what studio environment with classes. Yeah, I really do support them, but there's also a lot you can learn on Facebook. In this group, our group is it's really full of all kinds of information. People, professionals, and you have beginners, and good questions, good answers. You could do the search feature. Just search, you know, right up here. And hit that magnifying glass. Search the group, and you're sure to find the question asked and answered. And you know, I would say another great outlet. And there are, and I'm going to speak of the real good ones. There are a few very good YouTubers, you know, the influencers that are you know, I respect them. They've got informative content. They don't sugarcoat it. They don't make up stuff. There are quite a few. I mean, there's professionals out there. You know, one that comes to mind is that Derek Hunt. Derek Hunt. He's from England. He's a glass painter. If you're going to watch anything about painting, go watch Derek. He's really good. And he also does tutorials on using glass tools. And the guy's all around. And you know, and if he said something that was questionable or brought my, you know, attention to me, you know, I wouldn't, you know, jump on his YouTube and start saying things. But if it was something of question, I would never mention him by name and do something that would say, you know, this is wrong, or maybe you shouldn't do it that way. This is the right way, and mention him by channel. That's what I don't do. And of late on YouTube, I am being targeted for, you know, mentioning certain elements, you know, and they're saying I'm breaching a copyright. I'm like, oh boy, here we go. We got these people that got nothing better to do than to try to harm you in some way by claiming that you're stealing content or, you know, breaching copyright or what have you. I'm up against that right now, and it's terrible. I just wish, if you are a YouTube influencer, please don't make stuff up. Just don't make stuff up. How about that? That's probably the golden rule. And if you got people that know what they're talking about and understand, what you're talking about, you start making stuff up, they have every right to call you out on it. And that's what I do. And again, I'm not mentioning anybody by name. But if I hear something, and I said it a million times, I did my best, my worst stained glass advice and this and that. I hear something, I'm going to bring it up. It is what it is. I just did a video about copper foil, the claim that, well, number one, it stretches, and you know what, copper foil it's malleable, like tin foil. It'll bend and reshape to where you push it or extend the tensile area of it, but it doesn't really stretch. It may deform a little bit. It may take shape in a different form if you kind of nudge it, but it's not stretching. And I explained in an inside curve, you want to push the copper in and make it gather inside the curve without tugging on foil around it to ensure you don't get a crack in it. The foil's not stretching really. I mean, if you're going to talk about stretching, it might be a slight movement, but it's not stretching like you think, like a rubber band. And my point is, if you say foil stretches and that's it, no, you can't do that. Because people think, oh, mine isn't stretching. How come mine's not stretching? Well, you can't say it like that. You got to explain what's going on with, how to get the foil to be malleable. And that led to my next video, which was discussing, and I'm not going to say the name, the people, but the claim was that the foil will heat up when you burnish it. And I was like, well, yeah, I kind of buy in that, because it's friction. It'll heat up. And I'm thinking, I was like, what? How can you heat up? Like heat up to like where it's going to start making the foil move easier? I don't know. I mean, not for curves, foiling and heating up. Maybe you hit it with a blowtorch or a heat gun or something. But, burnishing it. So I said, all right, I have a laser thermometer. It's really accurate to the, tenth of a degree. And I did. I checked it. I tested the foil. I said, all right, I got a solid temperature of 63 degrees. I burnished it. I over-burnished it. I burnished it more than you normally would burnish it. And speaking of foil, someone found scalloped edge foil. And the claim was that when you burnish the foil, it heats it up. Well, it turns out it doesn't. I burnished it, and then I came back, I burnished it even more, and I pressed down hard and viciously burnished away back and forth, more than you would ever burnish something, and checked it with the thermometer. No change in temperature at all. So no, it doesn't, the foil doesn't heat up. And to just say burnishing will cause the foil to heat up, or it's like, why are you even saying that? Hey, did you check? Anyway, and I'm not, again, I'm going to be critical of other influences if they come out and say things that are really not true, or like they're just half truth or kind of deceptive. And if I see it, I'm going to comment on it. I can't comment on their channel because I've been blocked, and that's probably my biggest irk. Because I did comment a couple of years ago. I was blocked for asking a question, a legitimate question. I asked a question about putty, the cement putty, which I'm very aware how to make it. But the question I asked was about the one mineral, chemical use to make the putties. Like, is that something? I mean, I've never heard of it. It's like, wow, is that something that, am I not saying something? Well, they actually, I got a notification. I've been banned or removed from the chat thing. It's like, what, for asking a question? Well, it comes to find out, if you ask a question that may make somebody look uncomfortable or contradict them in some way, and not doing it to be harmful, or if they don't have an answer for it, they're going to just remove you. What kind of, I don't know. So I was like, I got taken back by that. It's like, wow, I was just trying to help. I was trying to give a little feedback. No, no, no. You know what you're talking about. You're not allowed here. That's what I got. And since then, they nothing but attacking me. I do a video. I was like, this one will be attacked. My live stream. I do a video about cutting glass with a template. Oh, you can't see where you're going. You don't cut like that. It's like, yeah, I know you're talking about me. I just did a video about that. And you want to talk about getting annoyed? It's like, you know what? I got annoyed, but I should just not be annoyed because I showed. I said, oh, if you can't see the pattern, well, how did this come? Where did this come from? And it's almost like a petty bickering thing, and I tell you, and I'm not here today to talk about them or others. It's like there's. I wish there was less, but they just take it upon themselves to poke fun, or I've been mocked on their live broadcast, about using my grouse pliers to grouse glass with the curved side up. Like, you're using the curved side up. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Yeah, that's the way you're supposed to use it. I'll answer it. You're not supposed to grouse from the bottom. You grouse from the top. You get to the score line that didn't break right. You grouse it. Remove material. And that curved end of the jaw, or side of the jaw, it's perfect for grousing, which you do on a downward motion. You don't grouse from the bottom up. You're going to get all kinds of chips. And, in the world of, glass annealing and cooling, the smooth side, or top side, the flat side, will always have that harder surface or more defined surface than the bottom side that may have granite or more seeds, bubbles, and this and that. So yeah, you grouse from the top down with the curved side of the grousing tool, the grousing pliers, on the top. It's not an opinion. It's not. And then I get mimicked. He grouses with the jaw side up, the curved side up. I was like, really? Yeah. So you get stuff like that, and I was like, well, you're gonna get more of my cross evaluation of technique. Keep serving it up. Yeah. That's what I'm up against. So if I mention something like a term about, how you break glass, instead of, breaking it gently and putting it aside, they talk about breaking it and pulling it in a direction. And that's, to me, it's one of my biggest pet peeves, because I've seen people get hurt doing it that way. They try to pull the glass apart. There's other influences that do. They're breaking the glass down, but then they're pulling the glass apart. I was like, why are you trying to pull it apart? You don't pull glass apart. You snap it down. You put the shard down gently. You get it out of your way, and don't drop it in one of those Morton grid caddy things, whatever it is. You're going to cut yourself. But the channel I speak of uses a certain term of how they're breaking the glass, and I find it to be extremely dangerous to put out there in an environment with beginners, because in the back of their mind it's like, you don't just snap it down, and then you got to do this other motion. I can't even mention it because then they're going to jump on me like I'm stealing their content, and that's what this last copyright thing is about. It's like, I mentioned it. I was like, don't break glass this way. And it's like, oh, I'm stealing content? What do you mean stealing content? Come on. And, how about this? Don't do anything that's dangerous and I won't bring light to it. How about that? So, oh, you can't do that. So, and amongst other things. But I'm going to finish off on let's see, who's this? Ellen. We got to check this one out. The guys got 17,000 followers. You know what? Everybody, this is a fake account. You don't see anything but a simple picture. No mention of where they're from, but they have 17,000 followers. This is a fake account. I guarantee it, if I click on that profile, I'm going to see weird stuff. So, and they're getting tricky. They're making themselves look like they're somebody. You see there's 17,000 followers from somebody who finally found scalloped edged foil. Why? They ask these questions. They post these posts to get feedback. To get activity on that post. Which right here, 13,000 post reach. They have comments, 44 comments, and likes and this and that. This person, who's not real, is getting paid for that. This is all done through Facebook. They're paying them to get interactions. Well, guess what? I have the option to remove the post and ban the author, which I have no problem doing. Yeah? So you are now in a spam bucket. Alright guys, I wanted to show you how that, I didn't want to really stumble on a spammer, but there it is. Yeah, I did my latest video, this burnishing foil heat. No, I did it, I tested it, it doesn't heat it up. Yeah, and if you do come across, I'm not the stained glass police, but I do know a lot about it. And my biggest problem, again, I'll just say it one last time. When I hear beginners pick up bad habits through watching influencers push bad habits or techniques that are just not really correct, I get annoyed because I've seen firsthand from customers of mine, friends of mine, who were burnt by what they would learn from teachers that should not be teaching stained glass. And the big one was the tapping of glass. Poor Linda, she took a class, you got to tap everything. Well, four pieces in her little window were all broken. She just didn't understand why. They just broke. I said, Linda, I said, do you tap your glass? Oh yeah, my instructor taught me everything must be tapped. Well, game on. I explained why you don't tap everything. And if you have to, be very careful and limited on what you do. Oh, I didn't know. How come my instructor didn't instruct it? I said, because your instructor is an idiot. Your instructor is teaching you things that they should not be teaching you. They didn't teach you all the truth or all the facts to it. As I'm looking at this window by Dennis. Yeah, I can go. Is that another glass on glass? I don't know. Anyway, yeah, so I said, Linda, you're only supposed to tap if you really need to. Oh no, my instructor said you got to tap everything. I said, and I explained the little flaws you got and soldering, and it may not happen when you solder or even when you wash it. It may happen later when the window decides to heat up and cool off or whatever. Or when you're just moving it, bumping it. It's a bad idea to tap. Same teacher, instructor, and I wasn't throwing them under the bus, but I was just explaining what they taught her, why you shouldn't. She also said, and this instructor came to my studio, and I don't grind glass. Rarely, I might, if I have a really expensive piece and I got a little bit of issue, something, some kind of, flare on it or chip, and I start chopping away with my glass cutter or a carb runner. I'll hit it with the grinder just to pop off a bad point. I've done it. But typically, everything I cut is not, I don't use a grinder. Say 99.9%. So she came to my studio and I said, "Oh, welcome, how are you? I'm all fine. We're different, different flavors, I do this, you do that. I mean, I'm fine. I don't hate anybody." And she's watching me and I'm cutting glass and, she's, "Oh my God, how do you cut glass?" Like, it's just the way we've been doing it. And then, and there was a thing. I said, "Yeah, I don't grind." She goes, "Well, how do you get, how do you grind without, how do you copper foil?" Which I don't copper foil much either, but most of it was lead work. She goes, "How do you get the copper foil to stick if you don't grind?" I said, "What? I don't understand." "Oh yeah, you have to grind your glass to get the copper foil to stick." And I looked at her, like, really? And so that started the relationship off in a direction I was not comfortable going. And I said, "No, you don't have to grind to get foil to stick." "Oh, yes, you do." Well, that's it. And I wasn't rude. I said, "Oh, you think what you want. You don't have to." And, even if the foil sticks or not, what you're actually doing by grinding is you're getting all the oil that was left on there from cutting it. It's the oil on the edge of the glass, and that's why the foil is not sticking. So, change your oil. Go to mineral spirits, which is not as aggressive as a paraffin oil or what have you. And, wipe your pieces off. So, yeah, and then, once it's foiled and the foil sticks, it's relying on the solder, to hold the piece together. Not the glue on a copper foil will not add any strength or integrity to your window or lamp. It just does not. It's a fallacy. It's held together by a network of the solder and copper. And actually a stronger copper foil, 1.5 mil over, say, a 1 mil or 1.25, will actually have a lot more strength to your finished piece because the copper is a little bit stiffer. And where all these joints meet, under the solder, it gives a little bit more integrity to the shape and strength of your window or lamp. And that's a fact. I've seen it. It did the comparisons personally. So, and it's not much, but it does make a difference. But yeah, so you have to grind your glass to get the foil to stick. And this is the same teacher that said you have to tap every piece. Well, Linda stopped tapping, and she never had an issue with glass breaking in the future. And I got a big hug. So anyway, my point is these modern day stained glass instructors and what they teach, sometimes it just goes beyond common sense. And they're going to describe a technique or a method. You best well you make sure it's backed up with reasoning and facts and science. Don't just throw it out there and like a spitball and hoping it sticks. And it appears that's what's going on. And unfortunately for them, I'm not going to let it stand. I'm going to tell the truth about it. And it's not my job. I'm not the stained glass police, but I'm not going to let it sit. I'm not going to let them get away with it. I hear something that's really out there and awkward and weird. You're damn right. I'm going to go ahead and call you out on it. But I will never say your name. I will never say this one said this. I would never do that. But I'll say, I'll use words like, it's been said, and I'll say it like that. Say, it's been said that this, and if they want to take it personal, say, well, I'm talking about you, or he's talking about me, or whatever, that's on you. I mean, last time I checked, we've got a flag with red, white, and blue on it, and there's a thing called free speech and fair use. I could actually probably use your video and say, yeah, don't do this, as long as it's for documentary purposes or educational purposes. I mean, yeah, then I wouldn't be able to, make money doing it. I would just do it. Say, hey, this, and that's called the fair use clause. I don't even do that. I don't even come close. I don't even do that. But I like I said, I will call out bad stuff. Don't. Foil doesn't get warm from burnishing. It doesn't. You know. I did the test. So I just was questioning it, and I'll do that, and I won't stop doing that. And it's just I feel obligated that, as somebody who's been in stained glass for so long, that if I left it unquestioned or challenged, that I would be guilty of allowing it to stand, and I'm not going to allow it. So. And that goes, I mean, I've seen other influencers do crazy things and say crazy things. And I brought it up. I'm not targeting anybody. But just like everybody else who watches YouTube, I gave up watching TV. All I watch is YouTube. I get all my news from YouTube. I get all my entertainment, movies, everything. I very rarely ever turn on, Fox News or this one and that. I don't do it. I get it all from YouTube. So in between videos or movies or whatever, flashes across the top in YouTube fashion. Oh, this channel is talking about this, and there, lo and behold, there's somebody. You think I'm not going to click on it? I'm going to watch it, and I'll say, oh, jeez, well, look at that talking. And I'm gonna, and it gives me. Look, you're an influencer. You influenced me to a point where I had felt the urge I have to mention something about it, to right the wrong or correct the inadequacies. And that's what I do. And I don't, if you're upset, I don't take pleasure in pain. But I've got really good advice for people who pass out or try to peddle bad advice. Don't do it. Maybe you should check into it. It's really simple. That one, the Silberschnitz, the head of the cutter, compresses at 8 pounds. And that's what you have to use, 8 pounds to cut your glass. I like 8 pounds. That's pretty heavy. That's heavier than a bag of sugar. It's like, as heavy as one of those small bowling balls. I mean, that's kind of heavy. So I broke out the scale, broke out the Silberschnitz, and pushed it down. And I said, geez, my Silberschnitz, it must be broken. It only compresses at 1 pound. And it cuts at around 4 pounds, maybe 5 pounds. And then I said, all right, let me press down to 8 pounds. I pressed down to 8 pounds. I thought I was going to break the scale. And surely I wouldn't be cutting at 8 pounds. So my bigger question is like, where do you come up with 8 pound stuff? It's just a made up number? You just, you're making up stuff just for the sake of making up something? I mean, you don't teach people that. Maybe there's other folks that say, oh, 8 pounds? Let me go get my scale out and do it. Make sure I'm pushing down 8 pounds. It's not, at best, it's 4 to 6 pounds. I'd say good pressure is about 5 to 6 pounds, and upwards to 7 at times. And the head of the cutter compresses at about 1 pound. Actually, I believe it's 10 ounces. But to just say, push down the cutter till the head compresses, and that's all you need. That's all you need. And then cut your glass. I said, well, that's only 1 pound. Is that all you need? 1 pound? No, you need 4 to 5, maybe 6 pounds. And then it says in that when you push it down, That's all you need, and that's about 8 pounds. I was like, man, it's like not one red flag. There were 2 or 3 red flags popping up. And I just don't understand. It's like compulsive bad advice. And if that happens to be what you were speaking of, and it's your copyright mentioning 8 pounds of pressure, that's on you. It's not 8 pounds of pressure. The Silbersnitz doesn't compress at 8 pounds. And yeah, that screw does face up if you want to avoid chipping your glass by going off the edge when you push cut. I heard that. I was like, wow, that doesn't make sense. So I went on board at Silbersnitz. I tested it. Sure enough, no. You want to make sure, because, you come off the edge of the glass. A lot of people do. You want to avoid whacking it with the back of the cutter. And sure enough, those Silbersnitz cutters can be cut with that screw facing up. I proved it. I cut with it, and I explained why you don't cut with the screw down. And no, you can't say that because we said that you got to use the screw down. Well, what do? I just don't say a thing. It's like, oh, well, they said screw down. I got to buy it. No. And I explain why you put the screw up with the chipping, and why you don't have to put the screw down, and why it is probably better to put it up, and you don't need 8 pounds to compress it. All of those. And it's contrary to anything you've taught on YouTube as an influencer. And think about it, you influence people. And a lot of people are beginner stained glass people. You're feeding them with bad advice, and it's not good. I've seen it firsthand. People in life come to me, they learning from these instructors, with bad advice. And what happens because of it. And that's why it's a special place for me to correct it. I don't like seeing people get influenced by people that don't know what the hell they're talking about. Sorry to be blunt, but that's basically it. And I'm allowed to talk like that. I'm allowed to say a restaurant cooks, something not the way it should be, or it tastes like this and that. You're allowed opinions in this world. You're allowed to talk about things. The day when that censorship, you want to shut people down for just doing what they do. I mean, that's communism. It truly is. And it's not going to happen with me. I'm not going to be silenced because I'm worried about maybe repeating a word phrase or something. It's not going to happen. All right. That's for you. I know you watch it. Dennis Squire. I don't know. I'm going to look at this. Maybe I should look at it. It's just there's not enough content. I'm going to check it out. And I don't mean to be doing moderation stuff here. This guy's real. And Dennis, in the future, I was actually not allowing people just to post, without any content. But this one got through somehow. Anyway. What's this mess? Alright, beginner or experienced, 60-40 for copper foil, 50-50 for lead. Alright, I'm going to finish. I'm sorry, guys. I shouldn't go off on my tangent about people that get upset with me. I really apologize. I don't like doing that. But I also don't like people getting, falling prey to. It's bad advice. And sometimes it can be dangerous. It's reckless. And one of my next, I had my son find the electric drill. I was like, I'll break out my putty bucket. I'm going to start mixing up putty and explain what you use, how much to use, go through it all. And, I'm going to talk about chemicals I've heard people use that are a bit questionable. So get ready for that. And that's what got me in trouble from day one. I heard a cement, stainless glass putty cement recipe that included not mineral spirits. That's what I use. It included lacquer thinner. I was like, hey, that doesn't make sense. Especially when the base elements are, linseed oil, whiting, and what have you. So, yeah, get ready for that, guys. I understand. I actually looked into linseed oil, lacquer thinner. The only advantage to lacquer thinner that I could find, but it's not going to be something that's good, is it actually dries up the cement quicker. And it does dissolve, or actually moves around the compound of linseed oil and the putty glazing compound, but it dries up too quick. It actually becomes brittle. And if you want something to dry quicker, unfortunately, the stained glass cement is not going to dry any quicker than 2 or 3 days. You're going to have to face it. It's like you're done cementing. You got to let it set up for 2 or 3 days before you think about installing. But if you want it to dry up a little quicker, you add a little bit more boiled linseed oil. And what that does, it firms up the cement compound. Actually becomes not like rock hard, but stiff enough where it's not going to be an issue with oozing and all that stuff. Lacquer thinner, even in a chemical breakdown, it doesn't blend with linseed oil. I mean, it does, but it doesn't. It doesn't. It's not a binding agent where mineral spirits is. Mineral spirits, it will directly. It works with the linseed oils and or paint thinners. Paint thinners, again, it's evaporative. It evaporates quickly, a lot quicker than mineral spirits, and should be avoided. Turpentine as well, but turpentine has an element of stickiness to it, which some people find it to be an advantage to cementing windows. But it does evaporate a little too quickly. Proper stained glass cement should have a longer curing time. I mean, cement should actually take years for it to really set up, properly. The stained glass, leaded stained glass, should always have a little bit of movement to it, with expansion and or, in the setting, the wind and the waterproofing properties of a well-made cement should be such that it doesn't get hard, brittle, and crack and fall out. That's why you don't use Adapt 33 as well, because it's got high levels of silica in it. Silica is a drying agent, and it also prematurely cracks and crumbles. It doesn't adhere well to metals like lead, aluminum. That's why you don't use it. You use it for wood. You use an aluminum sash putty or metal sash putty compound. And I'm going to show all that, and that's going to come soon. I'm going to promise to get that one going, because that's a real important one. And I would never charge for this recipe. You can print them up. I'll show you how to make it. That's another thing. Yeah, I'll tell you about my cement compound, but I'm going to have to charge you a few bucks if you want it. Ain't going to happen here, guys. I'm going to show you how to make it, and I'll show you where you can get the PDF document to print up the elements, the compounds, the ingredients. All right, on that, I'm going to hang up this live show. Yep, we're over 2 hours, so I actually went further than I thought I could. Thanks for watching if you were here. You know, Nancy's and Tammy's and the rest, if you were here, thank you for watching. And hopefully we'll get more live videos up for you. And watch for our next short or full-length video on my channel. And if you are not a member, become a member. I mean, the patterns I give to my members in the cloud are really something. And I'm going to keep adding more. I mean, I don't, the funny thing is, I don't want to add too much, because it's like, I mean, that's a lot. You know, I keep adding. It's almost like, you know, I feel make people feel uncomfortable because they're getting so much stuff. I'm thinking that. But, yeah, if you're not a subscriber, subscribe. You know, give me that thumbs up down below. It really does help my channel. And, you know, Kay, I was looking at your umbrellas earlier today. There was another one. Yeah, you guys are so talented. Thanks for being a part of my Facebook, well, our Facebook page. And, you know, again, thank you, and have everybody, please have a very safe and Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah. You take care.